Mr. Michael G. Abrams, Ms. Dorothy Shelby Brasley, Jeffrey J. Daniels, Mr. Darrell J. Garner, Mrs. Sharina Gonzalez Lucas, Mr. Wayne Hobbs Jr.
All right. My name is Waylon Hobbs Jr. I am a lifelong resident of the village of Hempstead. I am a pastor of the Coney Island Cathedral. I am a member of the Hempstead Volunteer Fire Department, clerk liaison for New York City Police Department. I am the husband of Donna Hobbs, who is a lieutenant commander in the Naval Reserves and an OR nurse in St. Francis Hospital. When we had an opportunity to buy our first house, it was here in Hempstead on Leverett Street. I grew up on Martin Luther King Drive. When we were able to upgrade, we didn't move out of Hempstead, but we decided to stay in Hempstead because this is where I was born and this is where I love. I serve as a trustee, a deputy mayor, and I also serve as one of the commissioners of the Office of Emergency Management for the village of Hempstead.
Thank you. Next is Jeffrey J. Daniels. Either way, it's your choice.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to first thank the League of Women Voters and NAACP for holding this forum. Very, very, very important forum. So I appreciate everyone coming out to hear the issues and hear each candidate's issues. So first and foremost, for the last 11 months, I have been sitting and representing the village of Hempstead as a member of the Board of Trustees. And for the last 23 years, I've been involved in the real estate business. And I must say, and I've had about 4 or 5 jobs in that space, that this has been the most fulfilling, impactful, and just demanding job that I've ever had in my entire life. And it is the most important thing that I've ever done is to sit here and to represent the people in this room. And to represent the people in this room when we go to the table and we have conversations and we meet, whether it was with investors trying to do business in the village, whether it's people trying to open businesses in the village, whether it's just doing business amongst ourselves here in the village. I am glad and proud to sit at the table to represent everyone sitting in this room, because when I go and knock on doors, there's real people here, and there's residents here, and we care about the village of Hempstead. I know we've got 3 minutes to start, so I'm going to watch that card go up, but I can tell you right now that we're not done yet. I had a 1-year term. We're going for 4 years along with Waylon Hobbs. We need 4 years to move this village forward, to fix what's there, to continue to move forward. There's a lot of work to do. You don't get out of a 30-year hole in 1 year. There's a saying, what's the best way to eat an elephant? And it's one bite at a time. So I'm going to slice that elephant up and I'm going to pass it around the room. And to see how crowded this room is right here, the same crowd needs to be in those village meetings. The same crowd needs to come up, get out and vote, get out and participate in the rebounding and revitalization of the village of Hempstead. So I hope you give me that opportunity to sit there and represent you again for another 4 years. Thank you.
Mrs. Sharina Gonzalez Lucas.
Good evening, everyone. League of Women Voters, everyone, thank you for your time and coming out. My name is Sharina Gonzalez Lucas, and I'm a lifelong village resident. I was raised right across the street by my grandparents. I attended Hempstead High School. I'm a graduate of there, and New York Institute of Technology. From there, I began my career in real estate. I've been in the real estate industry for 15 years. And I also worked for the Village of Hempstead Community Development Agency for 7 years. While at the Village of Hempstead CDA, that's where I began to learn really the details, the intricacies of the operations of a village. And being an employee, you don't have so much say-so, but I began to realize there were some things that I didn't quite like. And once I opened my mouth, I was laid off. That's okay. It's usually how it happens. It's all right. But that led me to want to be in a position to be able to come and make decisions about what's going on in the village and using the knowledge that I obtained. When I see abandoned houses in the village, I know what we need to do, how to get these houses back on the tax roll. And I want to be effective in getting this village back to the way it should be, and also create a better future for our children so that when they get older, they don't have to move outside of the village. They'll come back and have jobs and be able to afford to live in this village. And I also think that this board needs a little bit of gender equality. So hopefully we can obtain that. All right. So, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Mr. Darrell J. Garner.
Good afternoon, village residents, the village of Hempstead. My name is Darrell Garner, and as a kid, I grew up in Hempstead on William Street, and I went to Ludlam School District. And before I went to Ludlam, I went to Prospect and graduated out of kindergarten. So, when I graduated, I grew up in a household where, yes, my father was the mayor of Hempstead, and my mother was a very successful businesswoman. And as I grew up in that household, I see a lot of things as Hempstead started to grow and take place. We had TSS, we had the old A&S property. And as I started to come up, those properties was dilapidated. And as I grew up, I see that Hempstead was getting better. Hempstead was a place to be. Hempstead was the hub. And once being that kid that went away to college to get his bachelor's from North Carolina Central University, and then had the opportunity to come back home to get my MBA from Dowling College and MBA, I moved my family to the village of Hempstead. And when I moved my family to the village of Hempstead, I said, man, the village of Hempstead was thriving. Now we at a standstill. And we want to be able to live in the village of Hempstead and to be able to be proud of what we have. And now we are not proud. The village of Hempstead is going backwards. And to be able to have that opportunity to be a part of something to rebuild Hempstead and rebuild Hempstead now is an awesome way to do it. And again, most of our properties in Hempstead, 30% of our property are off the tax rolls. We must do something about that. And by doing something about that, you have to put a team in place that can work with Mayor Don Ryan to move this thing forward. We didn't give away the property. Okay? Waylon Hobbs and Trustee Daniels, but Waylon Hobbs gave away your tax dollars on your property. Now you're talking about trust. How can we trust you for another 4 years if you gave away tax dollars? And yes, Jeffrey Daniels, you did consult on the project when Wayne Hall was in here when we ran in 2017. So how do you have the ability to lead this village for another 3 years? And to make insult to injury, you're on the traffic and safety board where this village is overcrowded. Thank you.
I would appreciate if no comments during presentations. Please just listen to all of them at the end. We're happy to acknowledge all of the candidates. Ms. Dorothy Shelby Brasley, please. Brasley, sorry. I apologize if I mess up your names, not intentionally.
Good evening, community. Good evening, family. Good evening. My name is Shelley Brasley, and I am running for Hempstead Village Trustee. I am running because I am a lifelong resident. I do remember when this community was thriving. I do remember when it was a great place to live. And I do think that the people that are sitting in this room have the ability to come up with a plan and solution so that we can create the wealth and the kind of community that we want. I think that we need to look at the reality of what we have. We have a criminal court in the heart of our community. We have clinics in the heart of our downtown. We need to think about maybe relocating our downtown and starting afresh. We have the ability to do what we need to do to turn this community around. This community that once had 22 civic associations that now only have 4 active civic associations. We have to take the responsibility for some of the changes that have happened in this community, and we have to learn how to work together to rebuild it. We have to take the responsibility for our Chamber of Commerce not being where it needs to be. We have to to take the responsibility for fixing it. And I do believe that we can do that. We have to take the responsibility for our schools being as they are and the rise of charter schools, which are going to replace our public schools if we're not careful. My brothers and sisters in the incorporated village of Hempstead, I believe that together we can. I am an alumni of Hempstead High School, and at that time we were educating children. And so I'm a retired flight attendant. I'm the former executive director, acting executive director of the Office of Minority Affairs. I'm currently a legislative aide. I sit on the Sobley Council, which is state of Black Long Island. We look at the disparities in Long Island and try to come up with solutions to address them. I need us to think about Nassau County boasting of a 4% unemployment rate and the village of Hempstead having an 18% unemployment rate. I need us to think about other communities where in the village, to work in the village, you have to live in the village. But in our community, the people that work here, they fill patronage jobs. We can stop it. I believe together we can. My name is Shelley Braisley. I love this place. I live in this place, and I want to help you turn this place around.
Mr. Michael G. Abrams.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Abrahams. Can we commence with the clock now? Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Abrahams. I'm not going to belabor you with the lifelong residence, Lawrence Road Junior High School, and all that other stuff. It predates what we're addressing here today. What we're addressing here today is sustainability. Whether you can sustain the lifestyle you currently exercise under the current conditions of taxes, failing infrastructure, crumbling roads, more taxes, pilots, which is a business arrangement between politicians, the political party, and the taxpayer, except you get no benefit. I'll give you an example. Lyndon Knowles is paying about $56,000 a year in taxes. Originally, they were paying about $115,000 a year, village portion. They got a pilot. The school district lost about $130,000 per year. And the village lost about $60,000 per year on just your village taxes. They told me to get out of the street, so I listened. I went to the university after aging out of foster care. Yes, I lived in an abandoned building. I don't have any shame for that. I rode my bicycle to St. John's University every day after I graduated Nassau Community College. Scotty Coates can verify that. I went to school with her son. There's no crime in being determined. There's no crime in pursuing your dream. But there is a crime when people seek to define you and tear down your character because you've been a fastidious worker, a dutiful public servant to the village of Hempstead at every turn that I've had the opportunity. Any not-for-profit. Is Tina Bowles in the house tonight? Operation Get Ahead. We have the capacity to learn, to grow, to succeed. I've worked closely with LTI, Operation Get Ahead, and a litany of not-for-profits in here to benefit our community, What I'm saying to you is, we can do better, we must do better, or we will not be here together. We're losing children at an alarming rate. There's blood running in our streets, ladies and gentlemen. Are we in denial? We have the highest crime, highest taxes. Failing infrastructure. Look at the streets when you drive through here. There's litter everywhere. And we have trustees and mayors making decisions to give away your resources, your wealth, that you toil daily. Time's up. I'll be back. Thank you.
All right. Can you hear me all right? Okay. So the first question is, what is your stance on affordable housing? And we'll actually start with Mr. Abrams. Mr. Abrams, if you want to take the first question, which is, what is your stance on affordable housing?
Oh,
And we'll go down.
affordable housing.
I could talk to you about affordable housing. Little improvisation, excuse me. Okay, affordable housing. Here's how we make housing affordable. The village of Hempstead can acquire land, and they can contribute the value of that land to subsidizing the value of the house. So let's just, discussion purposes, say the building lot is $40,000. The village of Hempstead through CDA contributes that lot. Therefore, I now have the ability to reduce that house by $40,000, making it affordable. There's a first-time home buyers opportunity that's available. It's a grant for about $25,000 to $30,000. So I can now assemble that with the value of the land, and now you have a house that you're not paying, say, $200,000 for, because we can reduce the value of that house by $75,000 in the first-time home buyers grant and a $40,000 subsidy for the land. This is discussion purposes. $75,000 on a $200,000 house now makes that house affordable for $125,000. We now look at the application, the family size, and the income per annum. I'll give you a physical example. Patterson Muse. James Garner was mayor. I was working in CDA as a deputy commissioner. My job was to make sure Patterson, former county executive's grandson, who had the estate with that old house sitting there forever, the house was sold, property was sold, it was developed by the CDA, $75,000 per, anybody live in Patterson Muse here? No? $75,000 per home, 3-bedroom. 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath, formal living room, dining room, yes, single car garage, parking driveway, private road. Pretty nice, affordable. That's a type of housing we must put here. High density and volume creates an overwhelming cost of sustainability. Your infrastructure cannot maintain what they plan to throw in here. So they will bond you out with taxes. Every time you hear pilots and bond, scream. It means higher taxes. That's all it means. Now, if you bond in order to do something, you're just delaying the pain. So what we need is we need to get our community development agency back to where it was, generating revenue, as opposed to the disingenuous conversations being had in the room about taking money from the village to fund CDA. CDA is a public benefit corporation. It is supposed to provide a benefit to the public. That's you. I support affordable housing. I don't support high volume density. I do not support the downtown Main Street development project. I stand for no pilots. Let the town of Hempstead find money to give to the developers. Don't take mine and give it to them.
Thank you. Ms. Braisley? Sure. What is your stance on affordable housing?
Well, I have to say, I don't know if anyone's going to have too much to say after Mr. Abrams broke it down like that. Right? That's why we need diversity on our trustee board and people that understand what affordable housing is. What we've been seeing as residents here is one pilot after another pilot after another pilot, giving more apartment buildings pilots, and then not monitoring those pilots, not negotiating pilots in good faith. So, for instance, the Rivoli just got another pilot. And guess what they did as soon as they got that pilot? And we're subsidizing it. They took away the community room. They fixed the parking lot and now charge for parking. They took away the security guards. A child was just killed in the parking lot this week. So what is going on when you charge me, the homeowner? I'm subsidizing the Rivoli apartment complex. We've just given them a pilot, and who's watching what's going on at the Rivoli and the quality of life for the residents that live in there? I'm all for affordable housing, but can we treat people in this community like people? When are we going to do that? Look at the apartments that have pilots. Look at 100 Terrace. Look at everything on that road that has pilots. Look at 590 and 600. Look at who we're giving pilots to and who's monitoring what's going on as a result of that. And then come on Manor Avenue and look at my little corner house and look at my $20,000 a year tax bill to subsidize these people for so-called affordable housing, and nobody's safe. Look at 20 Totten, look at 155. All of them are heavily given assistance at our expense, but what are we doing? So how do we make affordable housing make sense in our community so that people can live in dignity? How do we do that? How do we do that as a community? I'm all for affordable housing. I'm looking forward to sitting on the board with knowledgeable people who understand that part of it.
Mr. Daniels.
So there you have it. That's the issue. Nobody answers the question. Nobody answers the question, and nobody generates a solution. They're playing with the back of your brain, not the front. The front of the brain is the frontal lobe. That's where you think. That's where your thinking goes on. The back of your brain is where your emotion comes on. Pilot, everybody hates pilots. Let me tell you something. Pilots have been weaponized against the village of Hempstead. Weaponized against the village of Hempstead. The Mazda pilot, the pilot for the car dealerships. Do you know why they're able to do that? Because there's an exemption in their unified tax exemption policy within the IDA that allows them to give a pilot to retail. Typically, you cannot give a pilot to retail, but you can if it's adjacent to a low-income area, which it is, Terrace Avenue. So they're taking advantage of the disadvantaged. They're taking advantage of the disadvantaged to their own benefit. What is the solution? It's not yelling, it's not screaming, it's sitting at the table and going, each IDA in New York State operates under something called the Uniform Tax Exemption Policy. Each one of them have their own. The village does not. So what happens is, the cost of all of these pilots are borne on the backs of the village of Hempstead residents. The benefits go somewhere else. The village needs to adopt its own uniform tax exemption policy that says you can have, we'll give you a break, but the multiple of the benefits come back to us. There's a solution to the problem. It's not rhetoric, it's not yelling. Affordable housing, yes, we need affordable housing. You will not get affordable housing without some type of real estate tax incentive because the numbers just don't work. They don't work. That's why it's hard to construct affordable housing. We mentioned the Rivoli house. I think somebody mentioned the Rivoli house, and we extended the pilot. We extended the pilot to allow them, if they went from affordable under the pilot, if the pilot just dropped off and all of a sudden the taxes went 10 times higher and the rents were still stabilized, they couldn't change the rents. What do you think would happen to that building? If the expenses go up and the income is down, the building turns to crap. The building turns to crap. We gave them an opportunity to extend the affordability period and to allow, if people were going to move out, if they were going to make it market, that would happen over a staged period of time versus all of a sudden the rents are up here and everybody's out on the street. That was voted in 5-0. We all understood that, I think.
Thank you.
Okay, so when we talk about affordable housing in the village of Hempstead, the problem is that everybody want to rush to put up apartment buildings and agree to give away our land. So, however, when you talk about affordable housing, we do need affordable housing because when you put up apartment buildings that our land was given away to, you're putting too much pressure on the infrastructure. Our water and our sewers cannot handle the infrastructure that Jeff and Waylon signed off on, well, Hobbs signed off on. So we want affordable housing because people in the village of Hempstead needs things that they can put back on the tax rolls. Let's talk about the tax rolls. You have 30% of this village off the tax rolls. We're not talking about that. And you have a water and sewer system. And by the way, Jeff, how was your water pressure at 303? It's not that great, right? But however, the water pressure, it sucks in the village. And in order to fix the system, the problem to the system is not to put these apartments in the village of Hempstead. It's to build affordable housing, to be able to give the down payment so that way we can put houses back on the tax rolls. We have zombie homes, okay? It's a blight in our community. Nobody wants to move to our community. And that is the reason why. Now, we can fix the problem. Here's what you want to do. The bottom line is when you put up these apartment buildings and you say affordable housing, give something back, not only to the community, but give it back to the water and sewer treatment plant, and police officers need new equipment. Okay, you want to give a pilot? Give something back. Once you get the school district, cut a check to the school district because they are not on the tax rolls. We need affordable housing. Young people need to stay in the village of Hempstead. And by giving them a house to live in, and when I say a house, I mean putting them on the tax rolls, they can live. We can talk all the rhetoric about who's passing blame, but at the end of the day, we have a board of trustee that's been up there for a year that's had the majority of the time that he has majority of the votes, but he pointed to the left and blamed the mayor and said he had no solutions. Well, our solution is you need to vote row C for me and Sharina and change the way this village looks.
Right now, I think we all need affordable housing. If we look at the price of these apartments that they're trying to build with the $3,000 and $2,500 rent. But I come from the same school as Mr. Abraham, so what I would think for affordable housing is I'm encouraging ownership, and I think what we need to do is look at these zombie homes. There are programs from the Community Development Agency. I believe that they should make a community housing development organization where they can receive funds. Those funds can be used to purchase, rehab, or build homes. They can buy these homes that are blighted, these zombie homes, and then they can also give grants in order to purchase the homes. Combine that with a Nassau County grant, and you have about $50,000 down payment for these homes. And when you put a down payment on a home, let's say it's a $200,000 home, it's $7,000 at some closing costs. When you buy these homes, you have a positive net worth of say $38,000 going in, and no money out of your pocket. You have these grants. So I believe that we can encourage home ownership and not these high density apartments that they're trying to build. And I think that's the way to go as far as home ownership in the village of Hempstead and affordable housing. Thank you. Mr. Hobbs.
I think that, first of all, it is important that if we're going to see affordable housing in Hempstead, we need someone that's intelligent enough to know how to address the issue without trying to get oohs and ahs. Young man Gardner has to do research, and it's obvious he didn't. I did not vote for the master development. I wasn't on the trustee board. And the master development agreement gave the mayor, who was the head of the CDA, the power to sell parking lots without the trustees' vote. I did not vote on that. So again, misinformation. He talks about how he's against pilots, but the truth is, even his father, who he talks about, said that we need pilots to get things done in the village. So I think he needs to do more research. We need to elect somebody that knows what they're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, we're going to change the order a little bit. We're going to start with Mr. Hobbs. What do you plan to do to bring jobs and job training for local residents? Sure. What do you plan to do to bring jobs and job training for local residents?
Well, one of the things that we need to do, we have a lot of empty and abandoned homes in the village of Hempstead. Trustee Daniels and myself, we come up with a plan to make banks more accountable for homes that they have in the village of Hempstead that's not occupied, to make them file a registration fee, and by that registration fee, that's going to generate money that we can work with groups like Genesis and other program that does apprenticeship training for carpentry and electricity and things like that. And so we need to work together with community organizations that's providing that training so we can have jobs for our young people. Not only that, we have to make sure that those that are elected on the trustee board understand that they are costing the village money by hiring people the improper way, giving people raises, and because they didn't do it the right way, other people get raises. There are so many raises that have been given to people that don't deserve it, and it's costing the village. So we have to make sure we have accountability when it comes to the village of Hempstead hiring practices also.
Well, similar to Mr. Hobbs, I was thinking the same thing. I just spoke about the houses. Those houses have to be built. Those houses have to be rehabbed. And if we create a community housing development organization, those are jobs as well that has to be ran. So my thought was the same thing. There's the Hempstead High School. There's a Genesis program, and they're just people in the village that want an opportunity. It could be single parents. It could be someone coming home from prison. Everyone wants an opportunity. So the program should be open where they can learn a skill and they can have a job to do that. Also, I think when we have businesses come into the village, we should be able to get some jobs from them as well. And not just a $12 an hour job, and yes, I promise I'll give you the job, and then they're gone. I know with HUD, there's something called the Section 3, where quarterly you have to report how many people you're hiring, what's their race, what's their demographic, are they on any assistance? So we can try to do it. If that can be done federally, it can be done locally as well. We need to monitor these programs and stop just getting promises out of people and get these jobs.
Okay. Well, in the village of Hempstead, we want to bring in commercial retail, but again, we do need a lot of qualified, we have some qualified individuals here in the village of Hempstead, and I think we need to look in our village to be able to search for some of the talent that we do have here. Apprenticeship is a very big key in the village of Hempstead, so if we do have some businesses coming in, like Sharina said, we need some careers, not just $12 an hour. Electric, plumbing, just a lot of things that would benefit our village of Hempstead, be able to benefit a lot of the residents. A lot of residents are not working, and I believe that those are some of the things that that hit home here, you know. And if we have qualified people that may be able to do the job, I know Reginald Benjamin is sitting in the crowd. I applaud some of the work that he does here in the village of Hempstead, and hope to get a lot of people back to job training. I mean, working, I mean, apprenticeship, it's a lot of things that can be done. And if a job, or if we happen to bring someone in that's able to teach people, instead of just also giving them a job, also do an apprenticeship so that they can also learn on-the-job training if they are able to do that. A lot of people want qualified people, and sometimes those people are not qualified, so we got to be able to, you know. Thank you.
Thank you.
So on the clock, really quick. So to piggyback what Bishop Waylon Hobbs said, it's called RARE. We put an acronym to it. It's called Register, Acquire, Rehab, and Employ. Okay, there's a company. If you got a pen, write it down. You can look for it yourself. It's called ProChamps. Town of Babylon already uses them. The village of Babylon already uses them. It makes the banks register all foreclosed homes at a fee. They take $100. We take the balance. we did an estimate, it would bring in $350,000 annually to the village. We use that money, we leverage it with HUD money to acquire the homes. We go to Reverend Benjamin, to Abba, we go to Genesis, we hire those young men and women that are learning the trade, because it's not just enough to learn the trade, you gotta put them to work, right? They can learn the trade if they don't have a job. It's no good. They're sitting there and they're right back to doing what they were doing. Put them to work, right? The other thing, Village of Hempstead, train station, bus station. If you look around downtown Village of Hempstead, there is a ton of vocational training going on. We need to consolidate that right here in the Village of Hempstead to offer education and different trades. Unemployment is very, very low. It's high in the Village of Hempstead, 5.7. We need training in the jobs that nobody else wants. Everybody else wants to be cool, they want to be in finance, this, that, and the other. There are real jobs out there that, who cares if you know how to, multiply, divide, and do like interest calculations, but you don't know how to change your clogged sink, right? Plumbers are always going to be needed. And if you try to get a plumber today, you should see the prices are way through the roof. So that's part of the solution.
Thank you.
Well, as I've forestated, I believe we have everything we need in this community. I think one of the things that we really must do is capacity building. If we look around in our village, there are the courthouse and multiple office buildings. At 12 o'clock, everybody gets in their car and they go to 7th Avenue for lunch. We don't have a comprehensive restaurant district in our community. We have several people who cook from their homes and have in-home businesses. Why can't we come up with an incubator project wherein we teach them how to write business plans, and we have some kind of project where we pick the top 4 and then we monitor them. We look at their record keeping. A big problem in our community is we just don't know how to run the businesses. A lot of it is our fault because we don't support the businesses that are local. And so we don't have generational businesses, and each generation starts over. So, but if we had people who understood how to run a business, to mentor these businesses and help them build capacity, that's who employs 25% of your community, is your local businesses. And we're not good at keeping those local businesses going. So I think that what we have to do is build out more businesses in our community and help them build capacity so that they can compete for the projects. We need to have a local business preference. So when we're talking about all of this construction and all of these things that are moving forward, do we have any businesses in our community that actually can take on those jobs?
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question? It's been a while,
Sure,
and I want the audience to be refreshed so their minds are clear.
What do you plan to do to bring jobs and job training for local residents?
I think it's been about 20 years since we've done anything in the village of Hempstead to expand capacity. What have we built? What have we built? Debt. $5 million plus owed by the CDA to the village of Hempstead. You can't grow economic capacity. You cannot provide jobs unless you have some growth. The population that's working in the employment arena right now is not going to increase. You're going to have to look to get jobs outside of your community. You have a 14 to 16% unemployment rate in the village of Hempstead. What is the county average? This screams foul, but no one's responsible except us. We're responsible. The elected officials are sitting up here tonight enunciating all the solutions and answers to all the problems that have belabored you for years. The Hall administration to today. You have the same ills and you keep going to the same doctor and he keeps prescribing cough medicine. It's not working, ladies and gentlemen. Stop and think about what we're doing here. We need a change now. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will start with Ms. Braisley. there's a lot of discussion around marijuana legalization in New York State. What is your position on marijuana legalization?
My position on marijuana legalization in New York State, if we look at the states that have already legalized marijuana, there are a lot of issues. If we're talking about, my mom died of cancer of the nerve endings. And if that is going to help, and it did help her when she was going through her chemo, it did help her. So let's just be real. So on a medical side, if you're prescribing it, that's one thing. But if you're bringing it in a community that already has to sedate itself to live here, you know, I'm not for it, okay? I think that we can better spend our time on something that makes more sense.
Mr. Daniels?
It's going to happen. All right, it's going to be legalized. So we can sit here in a vacuum in a bubble and act like it's not going to happen, or we could take advantage of the situation. Cuomo more than likely will legalize recreational marijuana because of the tax revenue that's associated with it. So again, like many other times historically in the village of Hempstead, we could hide and then blame everybody else that nothing changes, it's wrong again, and things pass by us, or we take the bull by the horns and control our own destiny.
On my stance on legal marijuana, it can go a couple of ways. You know, I believe that both counties are trying to opt out of trying to legalize marijuana in Nassau and Suffolk County. If I'm correct, I just saw that in the paper this week that Steve Ballone and Laura Curran are kind of leaning against it. But yes, I do agree. We do need it because, you know, we could tax it, and a lot of people out here need it for medical purposes. You know, and I think it'll provide some great opportunities for people who need it. You have kids that may have autism that may need the medicinal side of it. And I believe that if we go down that road, that is the purpose we should do, and that's what we should use it for. As far as having dispensaries and stuff like that in the village of Hempstead, I think the biggest problem you're going to have here in the state is who gets the license, who's going to benefit, and who's going to profit. And I think that's the biggest concern in marijuana because, as you know, it's a very high profitable product that people may need medicinally, whether it's cancer, ADHD, different things that people can use. And also, it's what we call, they use a medicinal purpose for CBD that also is infused in other liquid products that are used. So, yes, I do believe it should be legalized, yes.
Thank you.
Sound like you know about it. But I think for medicinal purposes, yes, we should have legalized in the village of Hempstead for medicinal purposes and as well as for the tax revenue that we can generate from that. As far as recreation, no, I don't agree, but it's coming. So for medicinal purposes, yes, I agree.
More rehab centers.
I believe that we need to definitely make sure, and I think there is a trend that it is going towards legalization. I don't want it legalized. When we talk about dispensaries, let's be honest, we have a lot of dispensaries in Hempstead already, and it's not legal, okay? There was something called prohibition, where alcohol was illegal. And now it's legal, and there is a trend that shows that crime rate is lower because you don't have street people fighting over it. I'm not for it, but I believe that it's a trend that's happening, but we should make sure that we put laws in place to protect the residents if it happened and where they're going to place it.
Thank you. And Mr. Abrams.
Abrahams.
Oh, Abrahams, sorry.
Thank you. Good evening again. I don't really think that that's an issue germane to the village election. My concern about marijuana and the young people in this community is on the other side of the coin. Let me show you. When you look at these communities where young people are getting arrested for marijuana, guess where it is? Yours and mine. New York City just used as a catalyst to initiate reforming legislation pertaining to arrest and conviction of young people, which starts them down a very slippery slope of recidivism, meaning that the criminal industrial complex will be making money off your boys and girls. Let me say this. These guys talking about legal this and legal that, let me talk to you about the criminal application, or the unfair criminal application that I would like to see stop in the village of Hempstead. I would like to see the mayor and the board of trustees propose a resolution that they will no longer arrest these young people. I worked on the first criminal offense report, juvenile offense report, for Nassau County Youth Board with a woman by the name of Patty Bourne. She's in Long Beach right now, you can verify that. On the Ann Irving, my first job out of the university. They get station house adjustments in the other communities. Call mommy and daddy, let them come down here, we work something out, stay out of trouble for the next 6 months, and this didn't happen. It's legal. Let's get some of that back into this village so our young people don't have high recidivism based on something they can get a misdemeanor infraction on. Thank you.
Hempstead has the highest arrest and detention rates in Nassau County. What are your specific plans for juvenile justice to ensure safety for youth and to end the violence?
Well, number one, what we have to do is that we have to put some money invested back in our youth. And we can talk about the police department, but one thing we do and we must understand is that we have recreational facilities. The youth needs somewhere to go instead of walking on the street. We have a lot of resources that we can use here in the village of Hempstead, and you're sitting in one of them. It's called Kennedy Park. Kennedy Park, along with Lincoln Park and all the other recreational facilities, needs to be redone. Our youth needs our help. And being that our youth needs our help, we need to do other things other than sports activities. We need to do some apprenticeships, be able to let them go to work to learn on-the-job training for free instead of letting our children walk the streets. The police department do have to bond with these kids sometime. I know that in Nassau County, they're doing some bonding right now with the young ladies called Cops and Curls. Well, we need a program in the village of Hempstead where the young men can mentor with the police department to be able to see that you don't have to be on the other side of the trouble to be able to know what's going on in the village of Hempstead. So we want to invest in our youth in order to get our youth out of trouble. We have to invest in our youth.
Like Darryl was saying, we have to invest in our youth. I think we need to open a library on Sundays as well. So we need things like the library, our park facilities. They say the I Don't Mind is a devil's playground. So we need more things in the village. I think Boys and Girls Club closed. So there used to be a time where we would invest in the public service organizations and that were catering to our youth and give them money so that they can do trips with the police department, ride-alongs, and just build rapport with the community. And these things aren't done anymore. We're not bonding together. So I think we should have more community activities where we can all get together and the police and the children can realize that some children are afraid of police, you know, so they can realize that the police are here to help you. And you know, that's what we need to do in the village of Hempstead too.
Thank you.
Can you please ask the question?
Sure, yeah. Hempstead has the highest arrest and detention rates in Nassau County. What are your specific plans for juvenile justice to ensure safety for youth and to end the violence?
I think that it's important that we utilize the programs that are already in existence. There is what is called youth court. And for the longest time, the DA's office has been begging Hempstead to get more of our young people in youth court because that's an alternative of getting sentences. Young people sit on youth court, they listen to whatever the charges are, and they sentence them to community service. But we haven't been sending our young people. There are a lot of programs available in Hempstead, but we're not getting the information out. Second thing is, we have to be honest as a community. And we as a community need to report people that we know who is doing all the shootings. On Terrace Avenue, you ride on Terrace Avenue now, there are people that walk around with masks on. This can't be acceptable in the village of Hempstead. So not only must we make sure that we offer the programs for our young people, but we're gonna have to do better in communicating when we see crime and reporting it, so people don't think that it's easy to get away with crime in the village of Hempstead.
Thank you. Mr. Abrahams.
Crime. Crime. Crime? What crime? Aren't you people like normal with that? You're not okay with that? Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this. There was an anti-crime initiative brought to this community by myself some time ago through the Federal Eastern District of the U.S. Department of Justice called Weed and Seed. You weed out the crime and you bring in a social and economic development to fill the void. We had an after-school program set up at 100 Terrace Avenue called Horizon. Anyone here grew up in that program? Okay. Listen to me carefully. We had a program on Martin Luther King Drive called the Clubhouse. We built a playground there in one day in conjunction with Kaboom and a multiplicity of other entities that participated. Volunteer everything. You can't come after the child is arrested and say you're going to start the process backwards. It's very difficult. However, if you work with the community-based organizations, they have programs, they have capacity. They are not funded any longer by the CDA to specifically mandate a certain number of our young people be processed through those conduits and be brought out, forged steel, ready to function in the community and serve you. That's what it is. You either equip them or you'll be going to visit them.
Thanks.
We need programs in place for our young people. We need programs in place for our young people. We need to work with our schools. We need to partner. We're so busy separating the village government from the school government, and we become so many little private entities. We're failing our children. I think we do have a lot of community service organizations. The schools have space. We have to effectively be able to utilize those things. When I was a kid, we always, traditionally in this community, cut funds to youth programs. I remember my mother opening up a summer theater guild in our garage. There was a time when the people in the community, if you cut something, we came up with something else. I had a dance program in the Salvation Army that was very successful for years. But you have to train children. You have to love children. You have to teach children to love themselves. Equip them with the skills so that they can be successful. You know, public access TV, our government is in a situation where we could probably purchase our own public access and train our young people. The mayor could have a round table. We could do a home and garden. There's some beautiful homes in this community. There's all kinds of things that we can do, but we don't see ourselves doing any of them. And we could train our children at the same time. So I think that it's time for us as a community to come together, think outside of the box, and create the future that we want to see for ourselves and our children. Together, I think we can.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I had the privilege of, about 2 weeks ago, addressing the participation in government classes at Hempstead High School. And it was a very strange thing I saw when I was there. I actually saw kids. They were kids. They weren't, gangbangers, look at these kids with their pants down. They were kids running in the hallway playing. And so when we sat and we talked, and I talked to them about government, it was a government class, and how the village of Hempstead government worked, and how they had representation from the village level all the way up through the senator, state senator, all the way up to the U.S. Congress. Then when the kids started talking, you know what they said? Why is Kennedy Park closed at 5? Why we can't play basketball after 5? How come when you walk, there's so many abandoned buildings? Why is everything so screwed up? Look at what we're showing them. How are they going to start to react and live in this built environment that we've created? Look at what they see. Look at what we're showing them. We have to do better.
Yes. Yes.
With pilots.
Thank you.
We have to do better. You're right. Absolutely, we must.
The next question, we'll start with Mrs. Gonzalez. Lucas, how are you going to address drugs and crime on Terrace Avenue?
Miss Abraham?
Sure.
Oh, because I'm ready. Okay. I've done it before.
Well, what I would like to see is more of a police presence on Terrace. I believe that we should have some command centers so that we have a faster response time. And also just the engagement that we spoke about, have a foot patrol walking up and down there so that the police aren't threatened, the residents aren't threatened when they see the police, and vice versa. There's a relationship with them. So I believe that we should have that presence, but also have some programs and activities in the building as well. I know I was at the board meeting, and some of the residents shared their concerns in the hallways and in the stairwells. So I believe that if we just have in the park as well, and I believe the park should have a facility so that the kids can go over there and play over there on Marshall, because there isn't anything for them to play, and it's just, you're just hanging out in the street. So I think we need to kind of put some effort into Terrace Avenue and the area around it, and have the police come and have their presence and try to give our community something that we could be proud of.
Thank you.
So we have in the village of Hempstead a mobile command post with the police department. And any other municipality, when there's crime, they bring that mobile command post, and it acts as a deterrent. It has cameras, lights. We don't utilize it as much as possible to act as a deterrent. I know that there was one time that they had a patrol car stationed at Terrace, assigned to that area. They need to do that again. And then we have to work with Terrace owners for them to make sure that security is doing more than just sitting in the booth, that they have to monitor what's going on in that building and report what's going on in the building. And that's what I believe we need to do.
Thank you. Mr. Abraham.
Ladies and gentlemen, if my gang is on the corner, your gang got to move on. That's it. If the trustees and the mayor can't stop the blood in this village, then we need to have Nassau County come in here and police this boy. One time. Let me tell you why. You pay a police tax to Nassau County currently. Did you know that? Yeah. Yes, you do. Are you aware that we only provide preliminary investigative work as police officers and detectives in this village? You are aware of that, right? Nassau County does the heavy lifting. Yes, they do. Now I'm saying to you, if I can't put, I'm the parent at my house, and my children are not going to run my house because they don't know how. They're not capable. It would be dangerous. Same thing with violence and crime in the street. Read and Seed Initiative made leaps and bounds in the statistical data of crime. We did, we have. However, we've gone back. 2 homicides in 2 weeks, 2 shootings in a week, gunshots every week. This is what you pay all this luxurious tax for? Look around your community. Hold people accountable. Nobody's working. Nobody works.
You own a home does not mean that you're not going to be affected by what goes on in this community that we call Hempstead. Right. So that's one. Number 2, we need activities for our children to do from the time that they are children, and we need choice. We need variety. We need tennis. We need swimming. It seems like we got rid of all of the programs that we once had that were viable. Here's another thing. Those summer job things that we have now, where we just give children jobs. We don't even make them interview. We don't give them any, so when they leave here, they think that the world just owes them something because we've given them everything. We're not preparing our children. And that's what we have to do. That's what community does. And that's what we've walked away from. And so crime and violence is not just limited to Terrace Avenue. It's everywhere we are in Hempstead because we've allowed it to be so.
Yes. Amen.
So immediately, if reelected, I suggest and put a resolution forward to do a crime-stopping bill. We started with the Shot Spotter program, and the Shot Spotter is very spotty, to say the least. We need to fully build out the Shot Spotter system. We need to create what they're calling now the Iron Curtain. The Village of Freeport has it, where every single plate that comes into the village and out of the village gets scanned. We're not 100% fully equipped when it comes to license plate readers. We need to get all that information and all that stuff in. And we really need a grant writer that sits there all day, every day, and writes grants, because if you think about it, Hempstead checks a lot of boxes for grants. Now, we have the opportunity, if we float the bond, to be repaid by the grant money as it comes in. That's the way Village has been working its finances for many, many years. We can put the money up front. We're going to get the money on the back end to help us pay and finance this stuff through various programs like the Justice Department. Correct. Terrace is not the only place. It is, the crime is pretty much in all nooks and crannies of the village for the most part. And these solutions will help alongside of what we have to do as a community, providing recreational services. And it's not just recreation. It's not just basketball. Right? Everybody doesn't want to play basketball. We've got to give them other opportunities.
Thank you. Sure. The question is, how are you going to address drugs and crime on Terrace?
Well, that's one thing we have to do, is that we have a very good police department. One thing we have to answer, one question we have to ask ourselves is our police department at capacity? Is our police department operating at full capacity? If we have 150 police officers and we only operate in 110, the police officers we have are spurring overtime. Okay? We need police officers on foot patrols. We need foot patrols on terrace and the stairwells. We talk about terrace, but we don't also talk about our seniors, because our seniors incur crimes too. Okay? We need foot patrols in those houses too, but we're going to stay on terrace. Terrace Avenue needs more foot patrol there. Okay? But again, going back to, is our police department operating at full capacity? We have police officers that need to be around the clock, around there, not just passing through unarmed or unidentified cars. We must also, the police officers must also identify the youth in the village. All right, Marshall Park is a key component. We need to have things, we don't have anything over there on that side of town. We need to operate, instead of having the kids coming over here to Kennedy Park, we need something on that side of town to keep our kids occupied so their minds can get trained to feel that we love them in the village of Hempstead. And that's the things we have to get back to. Thank you.
Please remember to try to stick to the question and answer it as best to your ability, so we can deal with that particular question and then move on to others.
The next question, and we will start with Mr. Daniels. How do you plan to work with the Hempstead School District?
The easy answer would be a lot, right? We should be talking and working together way more than we are. I think, there's a lot of back and forth, but make no mistake about it. The value of your home is a function of the school district. Amen. All right? The value of your home is a function of the school district. Now, that value of your home impacts the village of Hempstead as a corporate body. No one's talking about is that there is something called the constitutional tax limit, which means which means that you can only raise taxes up to 2%, and it's all based on your assessed value. We are in the danger zone, and that's not me saying that, that's the auditors. That's what New York State calls it when you're above 90%. It's called you're in the danger zone. And what happens is, after that, the state comes in, they'll take your state aid, it'll take a supermajority vote to raise taxes. Make no mistake about it, we are together between the school district and the village of Hempstead. We need to work together. I feel like the water towers that we're talking about building should have been on the backside of Hempstead near St. Lake Park. So we could have used the bonding capacity maybe to help the school with the track or something else in the school district. We need to work together.
Thank you.
But your supporters split us there.
And we will go, Mr.
Democrats did the last 12 years, put us at 90%. Excuse me, you're
Please,
not my
no, please refrain from any comments with any of the comments that are made. It's not fair to the rest of the people here and to the people who are running for office. Thank you very much. Please, please.
Just be quiet.
Thank you.
Excuse me?
Oh, sure, yeah. How do you plan to work with the Hempstead School District?
First of all, what we need to do in the Hempstead School District is, first of all, we are talking about building apartment buildings. That's a no-no, because already we're overcrowding the school district. Our infrastructure cannot handle the kids. Because remember, when you build affordable housing, affordable apartments, you're putting pressure on our infrastructure. Now, when the apartment builder owner comes in here, he's supposed to cut a check to the Village of Hempstead schools, because indirectly, he's not paying their fair share of taxes on the tax agreement that's in that agreement that spurs the school district.
And there ain't no affordable.
Okay. Yeah.
So, in the Village of Hempstead, to be able to move this thing along, the Village of Hempstead, we need to work with the school district. It should be conjoined together. However, we're not a city where the school can have, where the Village of Hempstead would have the direct control over the school district. So we have to bond this one as a family. We have to be able to talk with the school district, all right? We have to keep these kids off the street, okay? Because when you kick a kid out of the school during the daytime, they are wandering in the street.
Yes.
You can't do that. And you got to find a way to keep these kids in the school so when they go home at night, they go home and do their homework. But again, most of our tax bills are indirectly related to the Village of Hempstead, because when you buy a house in the Village of Hempstead, you're buying the school district. And now most people can't even sell their house in the Village of Hempstead because the school district is directly related.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, a majority of our taxes is from the school tax. About 60% of our taxes that we're paying are from the school. And the value of our homes is directly related to the school district, as you heard. So I think that we need to work together. There should be some sort of committee formed between the school and the village so we can communicate and know what's going on together and see what the needs are. So when we propose developments or propose organizations or propose anything in the village, we are considering our children and what they need as well, and vice versa for the schools. So that's what I think we need to do, is work together more efficiently.
Thank you.
So I agree that we need to work together, the village with the school district. We know that it's two different entities, but it still impacts one another. One of the things that I put in place when I was in office was the issue with the school district is the overcrowding. We found out that there are so many people that live in one apartment. It's 5 families all sending their kids to our school district. So I suggested that we have the building department, based on that information that the school give us, go to these apartments, check for overcrowding, enforce the overcrowding, and that way take some of the burden off of the school district. So we have to, and we put that in place, And again, that was one of the suggestions that we put in place, but it was never implemented, not by my doing, but we did put it in place. And then if we want to see our kids change, some of our adults need to change.
Mr. Abrams.
Tell the truth.
Hello again, neighbors, friends, families, all you people who aspire to make Hempstead a better place to live, work, play, and raise your family. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors in this room. When you send your children to school, they bring home a report card. You got to go to a teacher's conference to really find out what happened, because baby boy ain't really telling you all the truth. That's the fact. Now, if we're here to pontificate about what we're going to do in the future, because there are other candidates up here who want to enunciate their potential successes that they want to bring to fruition in this village, then I think we need to get our report cards out and start marking grades. Why would you want to return or elect someone who has a track record that is sitting here identifying all that is wrong with the village and did not take the opportunity to be the catalyst to remediate those situations? Why would we do it? If we keep doing the same things over and over and anticipating a different result, I think the 13th floor at Nassau County Medical Center is a more appropriate place for all of us. However, I don't think that we are lacking the capacity to analyze, evaluate, and grade. I don't think so. Thank you very much.
I think that code enforcement is a great place to start. I think if we look, as Mr. Hobbs said, I was on the school board. I'm the one who asked the superintendent to give us registration by street address. And when she did, on average, 1- and 2-bedroom apartments had 2 to 3 families. And I just asked for adults that registered children. I didn't ask for names or anything. 1-family homes had 3 to 4 families. So in addition to that, everybody closes their eyes with these big vans that roll up every day and let children out from other communities because other school districts won't allow it to happen. So our school district attendance and our village code enforcement, if we're really talking about the quality of life and we're talking about the children, the poor children have to sit on the floor because not enough chairs, why don't we look at these children that are coming into our community every day that don't live here, that are going to the schools? So I think a good place to start is code enforcement and attendance. That's a great place to start.
Now, the next question is, why are you running? And why should we vote for you? Why don't we start with Mr. Hobbs?
I'm running for trustee because, again, I had the experience of sitting on the board. Many statements were made that's completely not true. Again, Ms. Brazeley echoed the very thing I said, that we have to do enforcement and also make sure that we deal with the overcrowding of children. So we'll live with that. And not only that, I'm running because there are other people that's making a lot of promises, but they failed to admit that when they had an opportunity to serve with the CDA, that the CDA did a faulty loan to 100 black men that caused the village $1 million that the CDA had to pay back to the village. That's why none of our youth programs and senior programs could get funded, because they didn't do the right thing. And that when they worked for the village, that they were also fired. So again, I'm saying I'm bringing experience to the village.
Just remember, answer the question, please. Why are you running?
Right, answer the question, please.
I'm running because we need change in the village. I didn't have any political aspirations until I started working at the village, and like I said, I saw things as an employee that I just felt weren't right, and I knew wasn't right, that we shouldn't be doing. But as an employee, you go and you do what you're told to do, and that's it. So I wanted to be on the other side where I could make a difference and create a better future for all of our children, my children and your children alike, and make a difference in this community. Because like I said, we need to change in this village. There's such a stigma when you mention Hempstead. And I know that we can do better and we can live up to our full potential and revitalize our village. And we don't have to, this cannot be Hempstead. You know, so I think we need better, we deserve better, and we can do better.
The village of Hempstead, as you know, is at a standstill. We need a team to be able to help Mayor Don Ryan move this thing forward and rebuild Hempstead. And the reason why I'm running for a village trustee is because, number one, we have a situation where we want to stop the overdevelopment. We have to stop the overdevelopment. Our infrastructure cannot hold it. That's one. Number two, as you see in the last 3 or 4 weeks, crime has spiked. We've had 2 dead bodies. No one is going to come into the village of Hempstead and invest here unless you get the crime under control. And then we have to do a lot of things in reference to crime. We have to honor the police and be able to get them the equipment that they need to do their jobs. We have to operate at capacity. And another one is very important to me. That's creating jobs here in the village of Hempstead. And if we don't bring in commercial and retail development in the village of Hempstead will look like Long Island City. It will not look like a suburb. And the reason why I'm running for trustees is because we have hope right here in the village of Hempstead that we can rebuild it together and be able to bring pride to the village of Hempstead. So again, the reason why I'm running for village trustee is because I can believe, me and Sharina believe that we can turn this thing around together. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm running because Hempstead is my home, and I love Hempstead. That's why I'm running. That's why I'm seeking re-election. There's a lot left to do. We're not anywhere close to being finished until we can go walk along the borders of Hempstead and not feel different, not see people treat our roads differently. All of a sudden, 30 miles an hour is not good enough. You want to go 45 when you get in the village of Hempstead. All of a sudden, it's okay to throw your paper on the ground. It's time for us to govern. We represent everyone here. We need to govern. And governing means we need to make tough calls. Overcrowding. There's people now that put cones out in front of their house to preserve their parking spot. Why don't we get permits? You want to weed out overcrowding in the homes? Make somebody walk 1.5 miles if they want to live in a basement apartment. Let's see. We don't even know where the illegal homes are. We can find out that way. We need registration programs. We need to be out there to do the different things that we need to move Hempstead forward. So we're not done. I'm not done. I'd like to represent you for another 4 years so we can move forward.
I'm running because we need honesty in this village. We don't know how many halfway houses we have in this community. We don't know how many group houses we have in this community. We don't know how many people getting tax breaks. We don't know anything. We don't know anything. You know, you ask a question and it takes forever. We need integrity, we need honesty, we need people that are willing to communicate with the people that live here. We need to talk to each other and fix this ourselves. We don't need to be debating about whether or not we need high-rise apartments and all of this stuff. We don't have water or sewage to support who's already here.
Hello.
I'm running because why can't we just tell the daggone truth?
Hello.
We have to tell the truth. We have to be able to communicate with each other. And so I've lived here all my life. What I want is for this community to be made whole. Do I have all the answers? No. No, I don't have all the answers, but I think together we could come up with viable solutions to a lot of these things that are happening in it's our community. And when are we gonna start acting like it? We know what's going on in the houses next door to us. We know what's going on all around us. And it's time for us to take our community back. That's why I'm running.
Mr. Abrahams.
I haven't levied any accusations, accused anyone of anything. All I say to the public here is, why are they consistently seeking to attack and undermine my credibility, my resume, my experience, and my determination to work and serve this village? Let me tell you something. You can't talk about code enforcement when you were the supervisor of code enforcement and all the situations going downhill were existing here. No one can say on my watch I didn't do my job. Not the mayors, not the trustees, not the supervisors whom I had my foot in their backsides every day because you pay the tax dollars and they were stealing from you. It is what it is. When the cars are parked behind the hospital and cops are sleeping and people are dying in the street, it's my fault because at 3 o'clock in the morning I pull up and say, hey, why are you guys sleeping here? The village is not safe. Is it my fault when shade trees not pruning trees? Is it my fault when the guy who's supposed to be supervising the work crew in DPW at 4 o'clock in the morning is not at work? The village leadership allows him to not show up to work? Is that my fault? That's called theft of time and services. It's a crime. No matter what they want to negotiate and label it, it's a crime. And that's why they got to do all these tax increases to make up for money and services that you're not getting. That's the fact.
We've got dozens of more questions, but unfortunately we have time for one more question. How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in our village? Why don't we just start with Mr. Abrahams and we'll come down.
How do I intend to what?
Include residents in the decision-making process in our village.
Elect competent, capable leadership. You want us to make decisions that reflect what you think, you feel, and you desire to have. That's what I would like to do. I want to mirror what it is you aspire to have in this here village, 3.3 square miles of mayhem presently. But it was never always like that. I have something I can compare it to and know where I should go. I have the capacity and the experience to drive this here ship into the harbor safely. Others will criticize and say they know how. Ask them where is their experience? And where have they demonstrated? What have they delivered? Where is the result that you can see or not see? 12 years. 12 years of a previous administration of which they were a part. And if they weren't a part of the administration, they were hired as a consultant to facilitate pilots without a resolution from the Board of Trustees. That smells like a crime. And they want to point the finger at individuals who have, you told me get out the street. You told me to get an education. I'm not some super spiritual guy, but I have a conviction of the faith which I use to guide me. The most important thing to me in my life are my children. I love everybody's children because I can't just love my own. If your child is hungry, I'm going to be empathetic because when my child is hungry, I'm just devastated.
Thank you.
Imagine thinking they're going to get shot to death. Please.
All right. Thank you very much. Right now, we're going to have closing arguments. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't finish the question yet. I'm sorry. Sure.
Sorry. How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in our village?
I think that, you know, I'm a big training person. You know, I think that we need to have more workshops and more working meetings in our community. I think that the people in our community need to understand what a pilot is. What is that? What does that mean? I think before we get ready to grant a pilot, We need to have a workshop, and we need to all come together, and we need to tell the truth about what that pilot is, what we propose, how we plan to carry it out, who's going to do the monitoring of that pilot. And the same goes with other issues in our community. That just happens to be the most pressing one on my heart, you know, because it just infuriates me. But I think that if you start giving people information, they'd be more willing to come to meetings. Nobody wants to come to a meeting where you're talking over their head.
Sure don't.
Nobody wants to do that. And so if we start talking to our neighbors, the other thing is, what's going on with our civic associations and our tenant programs? How are we building capacity in those areas? How are we making sure that each area in our community is represented by a civic?
That's right.
That's a way to get people engaged. And for us to only have 4 working civics, it's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. And so we have to come together, and that's how we get our community engaged. We become a community again.
That's a great question. It's important that we understand how the village works. Okay, we are an incorporated village. So you have a board of trustees, and underneath the board of trustees, there are committees. There's Parks Committee, there's Public Works Committee, there's Water Committee. We need to educate the residents on the inner workings of the village so that you can participate, because it's set up for you to participate. The beauty of a village is that it has home rule. Home rule, which means you get to decide how things are going to operate in the village. So what you need to do, we need to be there with you to show you how the government works, how the Village of Hempstead works. Now the CDA attempted to do this earlier this year, and they have pamphlets that show each committee, and the Board of Trustees will nominate, I think the mayor appoints people to individual committees, because you get to decide what happens with the Parks and Rec. You get to decide what happens with DPW. This is how our government works. So we need to reach our arms out again and embrace you to say, come back in and participate in the government. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in our village?
Well, what we have to do in the village is that, you know, the most important thing to our village homeowners is the parking lots, and how can we renegotiate those parking lots. The parking lots that we have to renegotiate it's an agreement that we know that for some reason, if it's a breach, which is no one's not there, so we're stuck in a situation. So we got to be able to come back to the table to the developers and to renegotiate what we currently have. Meaning, you give, without you, you need us and we need you. So let's come back to the table and be able to renegotiate this plan. Now, what we do is that we put too much pressure on the water and sewer. We don't talk about the water and sewer. The residents need to know more about the water and sewer programs here in the Village of Hempstead. We're going to need $40 to $50 million to redo our water systems, and we're putting more pressure on the infrastructure without even addressing their program. So the Village of Hempstead and the residents do need to understand that before we start talking about building on our infrastructure, we need to correct the problem, because if not, it's going to implode. So again, those are the things we need to fix, and I'm sure that all our residents need to come out and understand what's going on in the village and negotiations with the developer.
Thank you.
I think we need transparency and accessibility. I think the board members can be more accessible, not just election time, but all the time. So I think at least monthly, like Jeff said, they have liaisons for different departments. They can come out and reach the community, whether it be Kennedy Park or somewhere, but be accessible to the community so that they can report code enforcement violations, or this is going on, or what's going on, or how do I learn about this, so I know and have input on the community and know how decisions affect me and how I can what was the question? How I can, the last part of it, be a part of the decision making. Yes, thank you.
No worries.
I agree with Trustee Daniels. It's important that the residents know about the committees that the village have and volunteer to be a part of the committee. There are positions that are appointed by the mayor, but there are positions that I'm sure if you get in contact with the mayor and trustees and say that you want to be a part of the Traffic Safety Bureau or a part of a committee so that you can be a part of the decision making and know the facts and not go by hearsay, but be a part of the process.
Are we now going to have closing comments from the candidates in the order in which they spoke originally? Mr. Hobbs?
Say thank you to the NAACP, the Women League of Voters. I'm asking for your voter confidence in March 19th. Again, Hempstead, do the research. A statement was made when I was code enforcement. That was 1988 to 1994. Code enforcement had 8 code enforcement officers. We did more summons than any other code enforcement. Do the research for yourself, and you'll find out when I was supervisor, code enforcement did a wonderful job. And so again, and then I asked too, that again as a community, if we're going to be involved, let's sit down, let's act like adults, and stop acting like Showtime at the Apollo, and let's make right decisions.
Mr. Daniels.
Thank you. So there's a lot of issues, obviously, here within the village of Hempstead. And we've got to put people in place that are going to represent you, that's going to move and respect and protect your interests. So as we sit here, well, you guys sit here, and we're in front of you, look at the temperament. Listen to the words. These are going to be the people that are sitting in a meeting representing you. If you were in that meeting, is that how you would act? Is that what you would say? That is a big part of being here because we are for you. We represent you. Understand this. There will be times that I may vote one way that you don't like, but I will always tell you why. Every single time, whether you like it or not, there's always a reason. There's always a reason. There's always a reason. Keep in mind, my man, don't whisper under your breath. Don't go down that level. That's the issue that we're dealing with right now. That's where it is.
Please, please.
The chat is actually coming from up here. Here's the issue right there in a nutshell. I'm here addressing you, he's talking to me. You're sitting in front of the developer, he's doing the same thing. We need to deal with the real. He wants to create jobs. He opened a coffee shop in Long Beach. He's drinking the coffees from Long Beach. She wants to be involved. She wants to be involved. After we ran together, I called her and said, Shelley, join the IDA. We can appoint you to the IDA board. She declined.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez-Lucas. Please, people, please.
So we just want to, I just want to say there's a saying, and it says, it's not until you are truly tired. It's not until you're truly tired that you're ready for change. So my question tonight is, are you tired? So we just encourage you to come out and vote on March 19th, row C. We'd like to work with Mayor Don Ryan to get some things done in the village. We want to stop the overdevelopment. We want to address the parking lots. We want to provide jobs. We want to address crime and safety in the village. And we need your help to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Garner?
On March 19th, you have a great opportunity to set this village on the right path. And there's only one team that's able to push this thing forward and rebuild Hempstead together. And we can do it with Mayor Don Ryan and the Board of Trustees. And that's one thing we have to do, is to be able to get ourselves back on the map. We have to redevelop this village, and not with apartment buildings. Our infrastructure cannot handle it. That's number one. Number two, we need to address our senior population, okay? Our senior population are often forgot about, okay? We're talking about everybody else except for the seniors. My father's a senior. What are we doing to address everybody else's needs? Next, we want to invest in the youth. Our recreational facilities are not substandard, are not up to par. And we must invest in our youth. If we don't invest in our youth, we don't give them the ability to want to stay in the village of Hempstead. I want my kids to stay in the village of Hempstead. I want Sharina kids to stay in the village of Hempstead. Heck, I want all 5 or 6 of us kids to stay in the village of Hempstead. But at this present time, no one wants to come. You have to invest in the village of Hempstead. And by investing, we have to bring in commercial, retail jobs. It's jobs, folks, that make people feel good in the village of Hempstead. And we haven't had that for over 14 years in the prior Garner administration. So, on March 19th, vote Row C for change. Darryl and Sharina Lucas. Because we're about rebuilding Hempstead together. Thank you.
Good evening. I thank you for hosting this event this evening. My name is Shelley Braisley. I am Hempstead. And if you really were from Hempstead, you would know that.
Hey.
I've had several businesses in this community. I've run dance programs. I've run youth programs. And there is not much that anyone, if you're honest, sitting in this room, can say that me and my family have not been completely engaged in the activities and what goes on in this community. If there was a position that I declined, there was a good reason for me declining it. So, I am running for village trustee because I love this community. I do believe that it's time for us to come together. I do think that it's wrong, all the division and the hatred that we spew among ourselves and then try to hide our hands. I think that we need to know those who live among us, and I've done a great job in doing that. I don't owe anybody any explanations, and I love you anyway. So, again, my name is Shelley Braisley. I do think that there are innovative things that we can do in this community. I do think that it's time for us to be neighbors again and to love each other again and to help raise the children of this community. I do think it's a disgrace that we are 50% of all those admitted, Miss Erica is over here, all those admitted in the Juvenile Detention Center for Nassau County, which houses Suffolk and Nassau residents. 50% of the children that come in there are from the 11550. I do know that we can do better.
Yes, indeed.
Remember me, Shelley Braisley, Row D on the 19th.
In case you didn't know, the Leadership Training Institute was charged with administering the educational training program at the Juvenile Detention Center for many years. I haven't been doing anything in the community, but I had a major role in developing that curriculum and that program and helping to administer it and teaching at the Juvenile Detention Center the children of the 11550. I'm not a newcomer here. I have a track record, and I'm very proud of it. Very proud of it. From where I'm coming, I'm listening to everybody talk. I personify the young person in the village of Hempstead to where you want them to go. Insurmountable obstacles, we don't worry about that, we're going to overcome them. Isn't that the aspiration? If you want to know what's going on inside of a house, relating to occupation and this, that, the other, you have to look at the garbage on the curb. Take a photograph, it'll tell you everything. There's no way you have 10 bags of garbage on a 1 garbage cycle and it not represent more than a 1 family occupancy. This is very obvious to me. Sanitation, code enforcement, Anything they tell you I cannot do, they're lying. All of them. They're lying. They don't know my capacity or my ability. I can swim on the back of the garbage truck. Ask any of the guys who work for sanitation. I could build your road. I could form your concrete curbs and your sidewalks. I could build your skyscraper building. Whatever you want to do, we can do it. Not because of anything other than I've taken the time to acquire the tools that I thought would be necessary for leadership. Read the resume, read the qualifications. They tried to tear down and destroy and smokes and mirrors. Look, they have a report card to bring home. You have a report card to grade, and you do that March 19th.
Thank you.
Do it well. Thank you very much.
At this point, we'd like to round of applause to all the candidates and thank you all. Don't forget you're voting for 2 out of the 6 candidates on Tuesday. And also, just to let you know,
water seeps through the air, drawing circles in the dirt. Sunshine breathing life in colors, calibrating temperature, growing roots from the center of the